meow, Huples cat. And Wolfie, 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 Wolf, Wolfie, Wolfie Terrier. Yeah, happy Easter. So we're in Airbnb in Newmarket, Ontario, and I'm going to show you the local area and talk a bit about resources and unconventional resources that you might have to scavenge in an SHTF situation in this area. So come along and have some fun. The neighbourhood's pretty densely packed. Some have chimneys. The area itself would provide almost no wood, but just down the road there is a park system that actually has a ton of trees on it and fresh water, well, freshish water. So your wood and your water supplies would actually be fairly safe here. Of course, security would be pretty minimal. High density, neighbourhood's not really that communicative, not that wealthy. I haven't seen any BMWs or Lexuses in this area, but that's kind of a snobby way of looking at it. But the more important way of looking at it is that in a total collapse scenario, whether it's nuclear war, an asteroid strike, or just economic total collapse, the resources stored in an area like this are going to be very insufficient to feed them for even a week or two. It's going to be tough in an area like this to try and make it through. Now, I know a lot of people have to bug in their homes where their homes are because of money, family, or illness, or all three. But if that's you, if you can, realistically look at the security issues. Are people going to come and kick your door in and take what you've got early on or late on? Late on, I think it's definitely going to be a factor anyways, no matter where you are. But later on, in theory, if you've done it right, you now have a community, you now have a network, you have local people who know you and like you and share stuff with you, and you do it with them. So in theory, the door-to-door kicking down door thing should be discouraged by the fact that the neighbourhood get together and deal with the perpetrators. But in a neighbourhood like this, I don't know. One of the things you can do with or without a tiny terrier is you can walk around these areas at night, and if you go early, when it just gets dark, you can actually look into people's houses in detail. And a lot of these houses have very little furniture and have very little stuff inside them. And you can see from the gardens as well, there is not that much money being spent on gardening or presentation. There are exceptions, there's always exceptions to the rule. But coupled with the almost total lack of the ability to have wood fireplaces, so honestly, they may have some propane, but it won't last that long and you can't use that indoor anyway for heating. There's not major resources here. There is wood down there, there's water down there. You have to treat the water. In a nuclear environment, you want deadfall. In a nuclear environment, really would be unhappy in this type of an area. I'd feel very, very threatened by the people around me and also by the radiation. But there are some dogs. There's actually two dogs there. They're not barking at little Wolfie. Beautiful, beautiful dog. And as you can see here, the backyards are not very well separated. Mostly they're just kind of scrappy, not well tended, not decent soil. It's a pity. This actually could have been a really nice neighbourhood if they'd actually done more spacing on the housing. And this is actually an older subdivision. I imagine with the new stack houses that look like army barracks, the ability to feed yourself by growing stuff in that area is like zero, and security would be zero in any sort of major event. If you work in a neighbourhood like this and you have to live here, this is kind of a good idea. Have a decent truck, keep it fully loaded with gas, have extra gas, keep things hidden, have a bug out van and just put your stuff in there and have somewhere to go. And as soon as there's an issue, get the heck out of Dodge. We'll have somewhere to go, of course, but you also have to rely on the fact you will be able to drive and get out of Dodge. Bit of a risk, you'll probably be okay. If you can, relocate to somewhere reasonably safe where you have water and wood and a community that won't immediately go feral as soon as the supermarket shuts. I'm actually filming this on Easter Sunday, if that means anything to you. We decided to come to Newmarket from our place in the country and go to an Easter brunch that Kitty's dad organises, and I'm not going because it turned out we did some secret surveillance video of the old Wilfred, and it turns out he has severe separation anxiety. After 18 minutes his crying was getting louder and he was walking around getting very upset. So I'm not going to go to the brunch. I'm going to be on dog duties, which is fine. We did get dental care done, which was really important. I needed it. It's been about 5 years for me. You want to go into any sort of an emergency of long duration with good teeth. You really do. Good teeth, good glasses. At the end of May we're going to go to Waterway. That's where I'm going to kind of look at getting my glasses updated. In the country, right? It's not that easy to do it. You have to actually travel. So, providing what's going on with the world, we'll be travelling again in about 6 weeks. We kept an eye on what's going on. We kept the car fully gassed, and we have no compunctions. If we had to, we just hop in the car and drive away. Of course, one resource you're always going to have plenty of in suburbia, at least at the time being, is schools. And schools usually have vending machines at least, and sometimes cafeterias. So depending on what's going on, if it is a massive collapse that's not going to cause recovery in the near term, very early on you might want to go in with the crowbar and ransack the school and take out what you can from the school. You could actually find a lot of tin food, a lot of pop, a lot of water bottles, and that will help you, especially if you're travelling and you're doing Airbnb. My plan is to escape, right? To run back to my home where all my supplies are. You're not necessarily always able to do that. Because be aware of the fact there is cameras everywhere. Most schools, most churches have two entrances, one at the front, one at the back. In the time of COVID, it's actually very easy to get in the backs because they're not being used. They're usually having one door. So if you want to get access, you can go straight through there. What I would do if I lived in the area, or I felt this was going to be something I would be doing, is I would try and have a look with the blinds up. I'm trying to figure out where the actual cafeteria is, because the kitchen's going to be close to the cafeteria. Even if I can't get in via a door, I can get in through the window. And I'm not saying this is something you should do. I'm just saying it's something you might want to think about. If you're in a local area and without much community spirit at all, and you know you can't get the neighbours together to get stuff like this and share it equally, and you know you can't get the neighbours to plant and garden on the school fields, heck, you won't even be able to get the neighbours to be able to swap dogs to eat. The thing is, you will be on your own. If you're on your own, you need to deal with it. And dealing with it means doing actions that other people won't do early on. I mean, in the first 24 hours, like there's a new massive nuclear strike on eastern and western United States. Come on, you. Bye, Halo. Say goodbye. Say goodbye, Wolfie. It's in the local area accessing toilets, and very early on grabbing the toilet paper. To actually turn school fields and parks like this into agricultural land, one of the major things you're going to have is seed access. You know, storing a couple of thousand seeds is not going to produce food on an agricultural scale to feed a community. It just isn't. You need to be looking at the 50 to 100,000 as a minimum of each type of crop. And then you have to figure out how you're going to weed it, how you're going to protect it, how you're going to stop animals getting in, how you're going to actually irrigate it when it's drought. All those things are issues. Of course, in a nuclear war, you won't be doing any of that for at least a year. So there you go. Don't overlook anything that you would overlook now, and think about how you do prep. So this is another good example of something you might want to invest in. If you have to live in an area you don't want to stay in SHTF, like a truck like that, absolutely you could fill it full of stuff and pull it out, and hopefully if the roads are open, you've got enough gas and it's safe, get to a wilderness location and actually have a massive quantity of stuff to set yourself up as a base, and then in fact use that as your home for a temporary period until you can build a cabin. Of course, your basic white vans can do the same function. Garden sheds, very likely to have gasoline and garden tools. Get them early, don't compromise your safety in doing so. Of course, the reverse is also true. Move your gasoline indoors, move your tools indoors, move stuff you don't want stolen away from prying eyes. This is the only solar powered house I've seen. Now the question would be, is it on the grid? In terms of estimating crime in the area, most of the houses do not have signs saying that they have security systems, which is a sign that people don't feel they need to buy them. And then when you see propane tanks just on gardens all night and all day, nobody steals them, nobody thinks to steal them, it's a sign that the area is actually okay. Jerking of the camera is brought to you by a tiny terrier. This person has put down artificial grass. Good luck eating that in the apocalypse, but artificial grass, unbelievable. This has been a 2022 Airbnb Terrier production.